Hello, my fellow members of the Goat Legion. You're listening to the first episode of Goat FM. On this show, I bring you tales of horror, mystery, and all things weird. Today's story features Happy's Humble Burger Farm. That name alone evokes images of cute farm animal mascots, colorful play places, and delectable grease-laden burgers. But I'm here to relay a more insidious side of the franchise, which will include disturbing horrors, a dystopian city, and minimum wage customer service. I received something rather interesting via snail mail a few days ago, all the way from the Outcast Islands. The content was a journal or a diary of sorts, documenting the author's day-by-day experience working at Happy's Humble Burger Farm in a place called New Elysium. Let me tell ya, it gets real weird. You're gonna want to listen to this. So without further ado, I present you with today's episode, Escape from the Burger Farm.
See how Escape from the Barn began as we revisit the pilot in Farmstead Redemption. Happy the Humble Heifer.
Today was my first day of work at my new job, Happy's Humble Burger Farm, in my new city, New Elysium. In lieu of on-the-job training, I received a manual instead. After giving it a read-through and learning bonuses were a thing, I was more than eager to start my day. I also received a headset that the boss can contact me through. It's only one way, which is kinda weird, but at least I don't have to have any awkward conversations with him.
You're hired!
When listening to what he had to say, I was startled by my door opening and seeing some dude walk by. He's an odd fellow to be sure, and unnerved me. I wasn't really sure what to make of him and decided to avoid him. Outside, there seemed to be a situation going on next to the bus stop, which means I had to walk to work. And during my walk, I took in the sights. This place seems a little depressing. And the people here are rude. They won't say a word to me. Once I reached my new place of employment, I received word that I'd only be making burgers and sandwiches today. Small mercies. It seems at least they're taking it easy on me, or maybe because everything's broken down.
No stealing the product.
To my surprise, I saw my neighbor standing at the grill, in uniform. I guess he works here too? His name is Toe, and he's my manager. I'm not exactly sure what he does. I think he's supposed to be manning the grill, but I had to step in every time to keep the patties from burning. So I'm sure he doesn't actually do anything, which does fit his job title in my experience. It took me a minute to figure out what to do and where things were. You know, usual first day stuff, but it still wasn't too bad. Even though I wasted a few ingredients and almost forgot to clock out, I didn't mess up a single order. And now I had some cash in my pocket. Since I had a little free time after work, I decided to check out more of the city. I stopped by the local pawn shop and bought a scratch-off ticket. Found where the local pharmacy was. Got myself a coffee at the cafe and checked out the live band. I thought I'd walk around a bit and see if anyone complimented me on my choice of disposable cup. You know, just to start a conversation. But, it didn't work. I got embarrassed and just decided to go home. Back in my apartment at the King's Comfort, I was still too jazzed for my coffee intake and decided to watch some TV. The, program kinda creeped me out, so I went outside to the balcony to get some fresh air. Well, relatively fresh. While I was out there, I found a cassette tape. I didn't really think too much of it, but I was curious. I wanted to see what was on it. And, it's weird because it was some lady talking about Toe. She said he had some kind of mental deterioration, just like some guy named Maverick Cooper.
It's a wonder he hasn't burnt the place down.
And she mentioned something about test subjects and E7 and something about extraction. I don't know, it didn't really make much sense to me. I'm not sure what this was about. Maybe it's the coffee, but something seemed weird.
with rehabilitation.
Since all of that was kind of wigging me out and giving me a headache, I decided to just chill and listen to a public radio show. I found something called Seacoast Road. During the program, the host interviewed a former cast member from something called Farmyard Festivities on Ice.
On Ice was a short-lived production. It was discontinued after troubles plagued the tour.
I didn't think it would be interesting, but after hearing the show was rumored to be cursed, well, that did pique my curiosity.
Several cast members perished or disappeared under strange circumstances.
The person interviewed wanted to remain anonymous and had a deep, modulated voice, you know, like they do on those crime shows.
We had to put on the suits
And went on to tell about how bad things were behind the scenes. The weird thing about it, and the only reason I'm writing this down, is because part of the way through the interview, the anonymous voice modulation glitched out or something and revealed his real voice.
I just don't know if the FFOI handlers are still out there watching me, you know?
And at the end, it sounded like something happened to him. Like someone got him.
No! No! No!
It probably wasn't real, but I don't know, man. What if it was?
Are you there?
You won't believe how happy you feel after enjoying a happy meal.
When I woke up this morning, there were Halloween decorations in my apartment. I don't remember putting those up. Anyway, there's nothing really to write home about today's shift. I had a few more responsibilities, like manning the fryer and the soda fountain and shake machine. I had a little trouble figuring out just how to get those fries and salmon nuggets in the fryer, but I eventually figured it out. Although, I do keep hearing pounding on the windows and doors, and when I look, no one's there, so yeah, that is kind of weird. And there's this odd visual disturbance. I'm not really sure what it was about. Maybe the lighting's messing with me? Of course, the lights also turned off at some point, and I couldn't turn them back on for the rest of my shift. And I swear those mascot statues are moving. I found the farmer outside. I don't think he's supposed to be there.
Will you survive this dark and dreary night?
So, maybe work was a little more weird in hindsight, but I think it's Halloween, so it could have been some tricksters up to no good. After work, I went straight to the apartment building, but I didn't go inside right away. I wanted to make sure there was no one else around to pull any kind of stunts. I'd had enough of that for one night. There was no one there, thankfully, but I did find some kind of note or something taped to the side of the building. I decided to take it inside and may have gotten distracted by the vending machine. You know, now that I have some money, I decided I was gonna get a Charlie the Chillin' Chicken and spruce up my apartment a little bit. But once I stepped in, I did check out the flyer. It said, I need credits to buy stuff I need to escape. It didn't really make much sense to me. It also mentioned buying a flat screen to watch more OBSCURA programming, so I think it's probably just nonsense. Today was, well, let me just write this down in the order it happened. My walk to work was interesting, to say the least. I heard a loud crash. My boss came over the headset and told me to just ignore it, don't worry about it, but I was curious, and Toe ran that way, so I figured, well, why couldn't I?
There's no reason to be wandering towards the sound of chaos.
Something happened to the crane, and I kind of wanted to check it out more, but I felt like I maybe pushed it enough, and I didn't want to be late to work. Money's money. They introduced cookies and hot pies today. Nothing I can't handle, but this is where things started going downhill for me. To be honest, I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but I saw a lot of really weird stuff today. Like a humanoid creature crawling around on all fours. And there was some kind of like pale figure running around outside, and there were flying lights, and this dude, I don't even know what it was, but it exploded. The worst part about it is no one else seemed to notice what was going on. It's as if I was the only one who could see these bizarre things happening. I don't get it. I know it's not the lights. Lights don't do that to you. Am I going crazy? Anyway, I went home again and decided to listen to some more public radio. That's when I found out that Obscura owns the rights to the Barnyard Buds.
Today, I just learned Obscura owns the rights to the Barnyard Buds. Ain't that crazy?
That means they own the Happy's franchise. And that means they own the restaurant. Obscura seems like the type of company that require their employees to have at least, a cursory knowledge about their brand. So I figured I should take a look at that magazine about the history of the Happy Humble franchise. It was a much longer and more detailed read than I was anticipating and gave me some insight into the history. I'm gonna write some of the cliff notes about it here so I can remember, just in case that becomes important for work. The cartoon was created by Tex Vanover, and when it made its debut, it was still made in black and white. While there were many other characters, the main cast was Happy the Humble Heifer, Petey the Portly Pig, Charlie the Chillin' Chicken, Solomon the Standoffish Salmon, which was later renamed to Sammy the Surly Salmon, and of course the antagonist, the Farmer. Some 20 years later, Chuck Vanover took over the franchise. He wanted to take the cartoon in another direction and marketed it towards angsty teenagers rather than children, with a more bizarre, dark tone. However, the studio burnt down in a catastrophic fire, destroying most of his work. It was a reboot to never happen. But that didn't stop him. He decided to branch out into video games, partnering up with Shao Interactive. He made a number of games including platformers and RPGs featuring the Barnyard Buds. It wasn't just video games though. He even delved into anime, comic books, and movies such as the kaiju horror Escape from the Barn, Nightmares. Later on, the Vanover twins took a shot at the franchise and created Happy's Humble Hijinks. They tried to recapture the spirit of the original cartoon with a more updated style for the time. It was also during this time that they merged with Happy's Hamburger and created the Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Unfortunately, there was no part 2 about the restaurants themselves.
Obscura Family Programming is brought to you by the letter C, which stands for compliance. C-O-M-P-L-I-A-N-C-E. Compliance. Compliance is happiness.
I took the bus to work today. Finally remembered that was an option. It was a wise choice considering the boss told me the guy who did maintenance quit.
Who kept everything running behind the scenes. He quit.
So it was now my job to pick up the slack. This is how it goes, They start you off easy, lull you into a routine, only to add more and more work without more and more pay. Oh, and there's a 40-second time limit to complete the task. What kind of crazy house is this? Aside from those encounters I mentioned yesterday, I encountered yet another humanoid. Only this one didn't crawl, and it didn't run. It would stay absolutely still, and only move towards me when I wasn't looking. I learned the hard way that when I looked away for too long, it would reach me and explode into like a black mist. And I don't know, it like poisoned me or something. It really did a number on my head. Oh, and I want to mention the pork slice started squealing and jumping around on the grill. I'm pretty sure that's not normal. The good news is, I'm starting to get a little faster with orders, so it'll be muscle memory soon. But I keep getting these visual glitches, and I've been hearing whispers too, not just at work, but in town and even at home. I think there's something seriously wrong going on, and I'm not sure if it's just in my head or... I don't know. But despite that, I decided to do some extra work because I need the money. And when I was out in the parking lot, I found some more cassettes. I'm starting to wonder who's leaving these around and exactly why. But they also said odd things, like it mentioned something called Asset Joy and it attached itself to a Happy the Humble Heifer animatronic.
The cow from the cartoons and the video games.
And that it was dangerous, incredibly dangerous, it said.
Really throughout the facility and is incredibly dangerous.
It also said Paragon intends to abandon the facility and use it as a prison for it and the other assets. It didn't really explain what these assets were, only that they were of unknown origin, so I don't really know what to make of it. But this is the second time I've heard or read the word Paragon. When I was walking by the Quick Cure Pharmacy a couple days ago, I found a note. Didn't really think much of it at the time, but now? Maybe there really is something going on. After work, I raced home. But I got kind of worried that something might happen to Toe if I left him behind. He might not be the best coworker, but I don't want to be in that restaurant alone. Not a lot to say about work today, other than we started serving hot dogs now. And I got my first order wrong. It seemed like the events occurred more often than yesterday, and it had me scatterbrained enough to forget the customer's fries. Luckily, that's the only order I messed up. I have a feeling that something really bad would happen if I kept doing it. And I don't know why, but I bought an alarm clock. A $30 alarm clock. I think this job is getting to me. I was in some kind of mood. I don't know how to explain it. But I kind of just wanted to go walk somewhere quiet and just to get my head in order, and the graveyard seemed like the best place. I wasn't looking for anything, but I found something. There was a warning on one of the graves. A warning that said if I messed up 3 times at the restaurant, a monster would visit me and I'd have to feed it rotten patties. Any time before this, I would have laughed it off. But after the past couple days, it doesn't seem so funny. I also found a cassette with a now familiar voice. It mentioned those exploding guys and said that they were some kind of robot fused with Petey's flesh. It confused me, but as weird as it sounds, it kind of relieved me too. At least someone, even just a recorded voice, mentioned something I thought I was the only one seeing. Maybe I'm not so crazy.
Well, the primary function is to drag docile organics to be consumed by Peter. They self-destruct when faced with hostility.
I got coffee before work today. If yesterday was any indication, I'm gonna need it. I also got something to help me focus at work from the Quick Cure. After reading that warning yesterday, I really didn't want to mess up. I think it worked, but it had some unintended side effects. When I looked up at the sky, there was no sky. Just metal or something. It looked like a dome, like this whole city was inside of a dome. And I could hear announcements, I think. It sounded like a PA system.
Your urine test came back looking a little cloudy. Have you been having fun on the weekend?
I really didn't want to think about those implications before work today. I was told I could turn the drive-thru on today. I declined. I can barely handle the walk-ins with all the creepy stuff and time-sensitive extra tasks I need to do. Adding more would absolutely do my head in. Oh, and Petey started coming into the kitchen. However, after work, that's when things got interesting. I decided to check out the warehouse I've been avoiding. After stepping through the broken fence and getting a closer look, the machinery looked kinda off. Turns out it's not real. It's just a cutout. Why? What is the point of this? Are they trying to hide something? Inside the building was even more odd. It kind of looked like a movie set with a fake restaurant. And I could hear some, pig grunts, and even though it was dark, I could see a tarp covering something that was moving. I should have listened to the warnings not to turn the lights on, but I did. And dear Lord, I do not know what it was, but It was like some kind of massive pig demon, and it was angry. Not only that, but dozens of those exploding humanoids surrounded me, and the only thing I could do was make burgers for the pig thing until it exploded. I know that sounds like a messed up dream, but it was real. I could see a small room through the hole in its gut, and I'm pretty sure that was a cargo trailer. When I went inside, I found a cassette that said more weird things. It mentioned an asset Peter that fused with the Petey the Portly Pig animatronic, and that this was a burger barn simulation stage. The recording went on to say Petey devoured the entire construction crew, the scientists, and AI units. I've heard the word asset used before, but what does he mean about AI units? Artificial intelligence?
I heard the screams of my friends and my co-workers as they were massacred.
I'm as confused and unnerved as ever. Something very, very wrong is going on here. It can't just be me. And the cassette ended with them saying, Paragon must pay. This is the third time I've heard or seen that name mentioned. I think I've stumbled onto something far above my pay grade.
Paragon must pay.
That wasn't the end of my night though. The museum that had been closed for all this time just reopened. It's weird timing. And I saw Toe running down the street again, but I swear he was already back at the apartment. Anyway, I decided to go check out the museum because even though I'd just been through a nightmare-inducing event, I did not want to sleep. The museum was kind of weird. I mean, I'm not really a museum person. I don't believe so I'm not really one to judge it, but it had like a happy, humble tribute and an art gallery, one aquarium, and a planetarium.
Leia is the fourth planet from the sun. A Paragon explorer.
I wish I could say that was the end of my night, but it seems to be a running trend that the weird keeps getting weirder. Once I entered my apartment, I heard a voice coming through my walls. At first I thought it was the Peter the Portly Pig cutout, which, when did I get that? But then I heard an explosion. It knocked a hole in my closet wall, and on the other side was a talking robotic head.
You aren't E7.
I'm not making this up, I swear. The talking head said all of this was fake, and that his friend E7 was trying to break out. He doesn't know where E7 is or what happened to him, but if I want to get out of this nightmare, I'm gonna have to follow in his footsteps and use designs he cooked up for things I'll need. A keypad hacker for one. The talking head suggested I use it on the door to the boss's office back at the burger joint. I think I'm gonna listen to it for now. I mean, what other choice do I have? Pretend like I haven't seen what I've seen? Nah, I'm not crazy. At least, I don't think I am.
All of this is fake.
As curious as I am, I feel like I should be careful. I don't know who's watching. I want to test those keypad hackers before breaking into the boss's office to make sure that they work. So for now, I went to work as normal. But after work, I bought all the items I need to cook up a few of these things and tried them out on the apartment doors. The one across from mine, apartment 6, was built strangely. Like, they forgot to build a floor between the top and the bottom apartments. Inside, I found a backpack next to some writing on the wall and another cassette tape. It spoke about behavioral modification technology and its failure to produce subservient workers. Just more weird shit to be confused about.
We aren't producing subservient workers. We're replicating trauma.
Next was Toe's room. It was wall to wall filled with Happy's franchise memorabilia. And that's not the only thing that was in there. There were tapes of Toe himself, cognizant and perfectly capable. His real name is Theodore.
My name is Theodore Oliver Emerson.
He is stuck here, just like me and all the others that have been mentioned. He wanted to get out and mentions that he started losing his memories, and on the last tape, that was it. The poor guy, whoever they are, messed with his brain. I don't want the same to happen to me. He doesn't shower. He has expired. I don't even know what it is in his fridge, but I tried it and it completely drained me. I had to drink some coffee before I completely passed out. Don't ask me why I did it. I don't know. But anyway, now that I know these hackers work, I'm gonna hack into the boss's office first thing in the morning.
You ever think there's more to life? I mean, when you break out of your conformist days, do you ever realize you're stuck in a routine, like you're just doing the same old pointless stuff day in, day out? Check out our calendars. Rue your existence as you cross out each day staring at cats wearing little suits.
I knew I was being watched. My boss, or whoever is pretending to be my boss, wanted to know what I was doing in his office.
Who told you to go in there?
But the talking head must have taken over the system or something and cut off his access to me.
Now that's much better.
I found a lever in his office that opened up access to vents under the floor, and while crawling through, I could see into rooms that housed robot parts and even saw them being assembled. That's why everyone looks the same. That's why they won't talk to me. They're robots. I knew that this was all weird from the beginning, and I suspected that to be the case ever since finding that tape in the graveyard. And this, it just confirms it. Toe and I are the only humans here. I found one of E7's tapes next to a diagram for a bomb. It explained how he got the talking head to work, and he called it a virtual intelligent cybernetic, or VIC for short.
It's an actual personality. He never shuts up.
Vic was supposed to be his ticket out of here, and I don't know if it worked out for him, but maybe, hopefully, it'll work out for me.
He's gonna be my ticket out of here.
Good news is, I'm finally getting some use out of that $30 alarm clock. I don't know if these cassette tapes have been purposely left behind, but they've been helping me piece together what's going on here. I found another one behind the wall in the museum, next to a big hole in the floor. It sounds like it's the same guy who recorded some of the previous tapes. Anyway, he says that someone named Grimm believes that the assets seem to have chosen to attach themselves to the more threatening and scary-looking kaiju animatronics rather than the friendlier-looking ones. And they've done it on purpose.
To mobilize with fear.
I think he was onto something. The hole led down to some kind of garbage storage. I think this is where they store the city's, or I guess the simulation's trash. That led to a derelict elevator shaft, and I almost got crushed by one of the cars in my descent, but I somehow made it out alive. I also found another cassette. It said that the Grimm fellow didn't want to terminate the assets. He left them in here with the employees and the test subjects, aka me, to observe. So I guess I had this Grimm guy to blame for all this mess I found myself in. Him and OBSCURA, or Paragon, or whatever. And that elevator shaft must have taken me pretty far down because it led to some kind of volcanic chamber. How do I know it's volcanic? I'd say the presence of lava gave it away. And not only that, but Charlie was down there too. I think E7 made it at least this far. His helpful hints helped me survive this place. I had to cook up some pretty nasty chicken sandwiches to lure this thing in, and once it was in place, I torched it. And now that I think about it, a pig eating pork, a chicken eating chicken, I don't know why I didn't think things could be more wrong, but here we are. A door unlocked after frying Charlie. Maybe some kind of emergency release or something. And inside I found schematics for some kind of headwear. According to one of E7's recordings, it's supposed to fry the chip in my brain so I can get out of here. Vic said it was called an inhibitor chip. I guess that's like the behavioral technology that lady was talking about on the previous tape. And it's what caused Toe to, well, become Toe. I don't know if this thing will really work, but so far everything else has. Besides, I don't want to stay here. I want to get out. There were some notes in here too, and an ID tag from someone named Don F. Shepard. I think he may be the one that was able to help one of the test subjects to escape, according to one of the notes. So I guess there's a silver lining. If one can escape, I should at least have a chance. Anyway, he also mentioned that Grimm dropped his bomb. I remember watching something on TV about nuclear testing or something like that, and the nuclear power plant exploding. I wonder if that's what the writer was alluding to. The only way out of there was dropping down yet another hole and swimming out. I was not the only thing in the water. What I think was Solomon or Sammy, you know, the salmon guy. I think it was him down there. I don't know if it's because of my doing, but the simulation is breaking down. It's as if the veneer has been lifted and now there are dozens and dozens of those robots running amok. It's getting really dangerous. I don't have the option of staying here another day. I managed to get inside the building behind the guard station, and inside there was a recording studio, and there were tapes left behind by Maverick Cooper.
What's up, Seacoast Row subscribers?
There was also a soundboard that included every radio show, every advertisement, and every announcement. Is this what everything's been coming from?
Get yourself some Donovan Draft.
But from what I could piece together through what I listened to, Maverick Cooper was the host of the public radio show Seacoast Row. I wrote a few days ago about listening to one of his interviews with a former star of the On Ice show. This was actually just one of a series of interviews he did concerning not only the Happy Humbles franchise, but Obscura as well. He was digging into something, and he wanted the public to know. Oddly enough, Obscura allowed him to do interviews with certain high-powered employees.
Good evening, Alistair.
Hello, Sir Portside.
And they divulged some pretty dark secrets. Deep behavioral engineering and manipulation via entertainment, like the Happy's Humble franchise, to the fact that Obscura seems to own quite a few companies. Paragon had tried to do the same thing in the past, and they weren't as successful. Hey goats, I want to interject here and add a theory of my own after looking over this journal. I believe this Maverick guy believed the reason Obscura was cool with him doing those interviews with the high-profile individuals was because they were just gonna confiscate the recordings afterwards anyways. So he made backups thinking he was outsmarting them. But I think he got played in the end. I think the real reason they let him do those interviews was because they were laying a trap for him. They gave him the information he wanted so he would want to investigate further, and in doing so, he agreed to give up his human rights to attend a re-education facility on Durijango for a full year. He thought he'd be documenting his stay, but he didn't know about the behavioral chips. He didn't know just how insidious this all truly was. His recordings after this unintentionally documented his decline. He was fine in the beginning, even going so far as to leave hidden messages in their own broadcasts he did for him. But eventually, he began slurring his words, forgetting things, and his last recording was just straight Obscura garbage. They got him. Putting on the headset did more than just fry that chip. It made me remember things like who I am, what happened to get me here. My thoughts are kind of scrambled. A lot has happened since I last wrote, so I'll just go through them as they happen to me. My name is Ryder Heitzman, and I was on Durijango 5 years ago. I think I came here to investigate all the disappearances that have been happening on the Outcast Islands. And then there was an explosion. The nuclear power plant right off the coast exploded. I saw it. I was there. I escaped through some sewer tunnels and came upon one of those simulated restaurants. And before I could really think on it further, a security guard found me, and that's how they got me. Just like the notes and the recordings I've been finding said, this place is a prison. OBSCURA didn't like us meddling in their seedy affairs and tried to get rid of us by using us as test subjects for their disturbing behavioral control experiments. And then they threw us in here with those monsters. Monsters they woke up with that damned nuclear reactor explosion. Oh yeah, I know that wasn't an accident. They did that on purpose.
E42 for short.
After that, I knew where I needed to go. Back to the burger farm. I remember there being a hole in the freezer floor, and now it was time to jump down. Turns out it was right above another simulated restaurant, the one from my memories. But what's worse is the Nightmare Happy animatronic was in the sewers, just waiting for me. Well, 3 to be exact. After evading the first and the second one, I had to run for my life from a literal giant heifer. But that's not the end of my tale, not quite yet. Because as always, the weird just gets weirder. That door led me to yet another simulation, but this one, it was old. Back when Happy's humble burger farm was just Happy Burger. Everything was dated. Even the robot customers looked and acted more simplistic. I had to play along though. It was the only way I was going to be able to move forward. I knew that. I had to go through a maze and then run up some old rusted stacked cars to get away from lava. I'm not sure how much of that was real, but it brought me to a farm, and on the farm was the farmer. That damned farmer. I'm not sure what it is about these rotten burgers the animatronics like so much, but if it helps me escape, then I'll feed them to bursting. Thank God after dealing with him, I was back in the simulation, but not for long. A way out had opened, and I took it. There was a loud commotion in the facility. I can only imagine what happened on the other side of that door. I only saw the aftermath, and it didn't look pretty. But just beyond that was something beautiful. Freedom. I made it. I escaped. I don't know where I'll go, or what I'll do now. Exposing OBSCURA would be the right thing to do, but I've seen just how powerful they are, how much control they have. I alone wouldn't be able to do a thing to them. They already got me once, and I do not want to end up back in that nightmare. So I think I'm just gonna lay low for a while. But, at the risk of someone from OBSCURA finding this, I'm gonna leave this here as a warning in case some poor fool stumbles upon this place. Get off the island. Don't go into the tunnels, and do not trust any animatronics. That certainly was quite the tale. Now, I don't know if any of this was real or someone's just pulling our leg here, but I know I won't be making any visits to Durijango anytime soon, and if you have any vacation plans to go there, I would suggest changing them. Thank you to all of my viewers and listeners. You are all the GOAT. I hope you liked today's show. It sure was a crazy one. If you did like it, maybe give it a like. And if you didn't, go ahead and give it a dislike. Perhaps leave a comment. I enjoy reading those and I do respond to most. Subscribe to keep up with future videos and check out my Twitter if you want to keep up to date on what I'm working on. I also have a super thanks if you feel like tossing a few bucks my way. It goes directly back into the channel in the form of purchasing new content to cover, future music or effects used in the videos, or allowing me to afford the coffee I need to write and edit these bad boys. Either way, whatever you choose to do or not do, again, thank you for watching. And with that said, I'll see you again on The Midnight Goat.